Hey everyone, I just got my most recent food rations for the next few days, so I figured it was a good time as any to make this video to explain to y'all what I've been promising, the COVID restrictions. Promise I'll make this as simple and painless as possible. So, the COVID restrictions that Georgetown has had, originally they were only going to bring 2,000 people back to campus because of DC regulations. Which, if you didn't know, Georgetown is in Washington, D.C. And whenever D.C. closed and we were all kicked out early in March, Georgetown let us know that they were like, hey, just so you guys know, like, we have a plan, but we can't reopen until D.C. goes to phase 2. And even then, we have to come up with an individual plan as a school that the mayor has to approve personally before y'all can come back to school. And we're like, okay, cool. And so the first 2,000 people, it was originally going to be 2,000 people. 1,500 of them around that were going to be freshmen, which of course set off a riot in the group chats and among the upperclassmen, like me. And then they started this housing stability application where, you know, if you have an unstable home life or you don't have access to continue doing classes in the fall at home, like that kind of stuff, you can apply to live on campus. I got denied the first round, even though I told them, I was like, look, I'm a senior and there's no way I can finish this year because I don't have internet access at home. I don't. I live in the middle of rural Tennessee where the nearest stoplight is 30 minutes away. So, like, I can't finish if you don't let me in. And they didn't let me in the first time. And so I had to go to the deans, and I was like, look, I'm not going to be able to graduate unless you let me in. Please let me in. And so eventually they had a appeal process where you could plead your case again, and they wanted you to elaborate and give more detail. So after spilling my guts there, then they let me in. But then they also came out with the news that freshmen were not going to be allowed on campus. Man, that set the freshmen off. It was kind of funny to watch. I'm sorry, freshmen, but it was like really funny to watch kind of how y'all, or the people freaking out, I should say, were like, how can they promise us this and then like kick us off? And we're like, first time the admin doesn't deliver on their promises and completely rips the rug out from under you by not caring about you and only caring about money. First time. Oh yeah, you're a freshman, it is your first time. I have to say, I'm really glad the freshmen are getting to see the admin for the decisions they make and what their processes are like very early on. That way they don't they don't fall down for any crap that the admin may try to pull in future decisions. Anyway, the COVID restrictions, they told us, okay. Oh, and they also gave freshmen an appeals process. When they told freshmen they could no longer come back just because they were freshmen, they also said, okay, well, freshmen, you can now apply through the housing stability process, and some freshmen got in that way. I'm sure not as many people as needed to, but Georgetown. So, the COVID restrictions, they told us that we will all be in apartments, in single bedrooms. We will all be in single bedrooms, which means that they would take a double bedroom that was meant for 2 people and just put 1 person in there. So they've put us all in 4-person apartments with 2 double bedrooms, 1 person to a bedroom, which is not the most ideal situation, but granted, it's what they can do because we don't have that many single rooms on campus, and I think they wanted to try and confine kids to distinct buildings instead of have them spread out all over campus. They're making the best of what they have, I think. And they also took the restriction of saying, like, okay, no, we're going to go all virtual classes. Originally, the plan was for people on campus to go to in-person classes, but now they're saying, no, for right now, it's going to be all virtual when the virus started picking up again. They also said if you're coming to campus, you have to get a COVID test from a provider that they've partnered with, which I don't know if I can mention the name of. I'm sure I can, but I'm not going to right now. But you have to get a COVID test from them, and you have to test negative before you come to campus. And then when you get to campus, you're going to be tested. And then 5 days after you come to campus, you're going to be tested. And I think they said 10 days after you come to campus, you're going to be tested because they want you to quarantine for 14 days. And especially DC has a law where if you're coming from a hotspot state, you have to quarantine for 14 days. And I mean, I live alone, so I'm quarantining anyway, and I don't plan on going anywhere, so I'm just gonna quarantine all the time. But so I tested negative, and a lot of people, there was an issue with the COVID test getting there on time, like because the company was so overwhelmed with sending out tests that once you had to go sign this consent form online that says like your information can be sent to Georgetown, like your test results, they didn't give you a shipping notification. The package just showed up at your door. And that freaked people out because some people's packages weren't showing up, they were showing up late, they were showing up in different places. It was just a mess. Some people were homeless or they were couch surfing, so they didn't know what address to give because they didn't know how long they were going to be there. It was an ordeal. It was a nightmare. And some people still haven't gotten their test. Classes start today. I have a class today, and some people still haven't gotten their test and can't come to campus. But that's more of a supply and demand kind of thing, I guess, depending on how much the company can produce. But when we came to campus, they had setup days for when you can move in. So they told you ahead of time what your move-in day and what your move-in time were. And I think returning students and international transfer students had a set 3 days, and then there's going to be another set 3 days for another group, and then freshmen are going to move in September. And they're like, we have to move in the beginning of classes? And I'm like, yeah, now you'll know how we felt when we got kicked out in the middle of classes and finals. It sucks. That's not a I told you so or, a haha, like it's just we feel your pain. Please understand ours. Everyone's been really helpful to the freshmen. I've been trying to be really helpful to the freshmen. Baby Hoyas, please take care of yourselves. It's rough here. It's real rough. Hopefully your subsequent years at Georgetown will be a lot better. But when we got here on the set move-in days and times, I was actually surprised by how little people there were. I think they did a pretty good job at social distancing people and like where people were moving in and where they were coming from and whatnot, because I saw a few people, but I was never that close to them, and no one around me was moving in that close, so that was pretty nice. They also had everything set up in one building, so when you went in, you got checked in, you got verified that you were on because we have a daily questionnaire app that we have to fill out that talks about like our COVID risk factor that's going to dictate whether or not we can get access to buildings, because we'll get a building badge that says whether or not we're high risk or not. It's kind of Big Brother-ish, but I understand, I guess. And so you get verified for that, and then you go set up your next testing appointment, and then you go get tested, and then you come and they give you your food. I think I explained that in the first video. They gave you lunch and dinner for your move-in day, and then breakfast the next day, and then they deliver food for the next few days the next morning. And then they also gave you your key, you signed in, blah, 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 and then you got to move stuff in. Parents were not allowed to help us move in. They were allowed to help us move things outside, but they weren't allowed to come into our residences. I felt like I really wanted to be exempt from that because, like I said, I live alone, so I felt like, who's my mom going to be endangering except me? But, followed the rules because that's what we do here. Followed the good rules because they're for a good reason. So yeah, I haven't heard any news of positive cases around campus. I'm watching outside because there are some delivery men, and I don't know if they're about to deliver to me. I just got my food, so I'm trying to make sure they don't deliver anything else. Yeah, so haven't heard of any cases on campus yet or any hot spots, but I think the first big round of testing starts tomorrow. I go in for my test at 8 a.m. tomorrow. It's actually like right outside my door, so I just gonna roll out of bed and go over there. But I'll let y'all know any updates as they occur. I'm about to eat lunch and then go start work on my senior thesis. So the world still turns and Georgetown's still chaotic. I'm sorry if this is a little shaky. I've been holding this in my hand the entire time. But I hope y'all are staying well as you can, doing okay. Take care of yourselves and be as nice as you can to people.